the scientists.
Divided in the blood of 1,000 men and women were filled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. No way to death. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, April 30th, 2007.
Hello, welcome one, welcome all to World of the Unexplained once again. This is Jay Scott.
This is Trent Lackey. Tonight we have David Twichell. He has a very interesting take on the UFO concept. It's called the UFO-Jesus connection.
Yes.
That's right, the UFO-Jesus connection.
The UFO-Jesus connection.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's anyway. David Twichell is a field investigator, newsletter editor, and public relations officer for Michigan. I believe this is pronounced MUFON. It's Mutual UFO Network. I believe that's what it stands for. He's going to correct me if I'm wrong on that, but they're basically a research organization that does that. He's been a guest on a lot of different media shows, local TV, as well as a radio show that broadcasts on WHFR 89.3 FM, and that's heard the first Saturday of each month. You can also check out his website at www.ufoimplications.com. So without further ado, Mr. David Twichell, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm real well, Jay. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. This is a crazy book. I mean, it's just it jumps from one thing to another. You cover a lot of stuff in here. The Shroud of Turin, the whole idea of the Ezekiel thing that we always hear about, the wheels within wheels.
The four-headed
cherubim. I've got my own interpretation on what I think that is. But it's interesting. You go through a lot of different things. You even talk about, communicating with the dead, and including past relatives. When did this book idea come to you? Was it when you were a child?
No, actually, I had my my one UFO sighting when I was 14 years old, in the presence of my whole family and hundreds of people in the Detroit area. And I've been interested in the subject ever since. But actually it was, I would say 1998 that it just kind of struck me. I was reading the book on Bibles and UFOs. And everything, other pieces just seemed to fall together, that what we are seeing today, what they were seeing in biblical times and in ancient times, and are right along throughout history, these wheel and a pillar of fire and pillar of cloud, and many of the anomalous aerial phenomenon that were witnessed and reported in the Bible were actually what we are seeing today. But back then they could only, just like we can today, only describe things that we witness within the framework of our own reference. And they revered them as gods, or angels of God. And let me preface this by saying I'm not saying that Jesus and God were nothing more than aliens and flying saucers.
Yeah.
Far from it. I do believe in a true spiritual creator. In fact, in the book, it's set up in three different parts.
Yeah, you've got your let me see if I can flip through part one, UFOs in the physical realm. Part 2 talks about Jesus. Let's see, Jesus of Nazareth in the spiritual realm, and then Part 3 is the connection.
Right. So you're going to connect two things. You got to tell about one thing and then the other thing, and then put it together. So I've related some of the spiritual things that have happened in my life to help establish the fact that I do believe in a spiritual realm and a living creator.
Now you talked about your family, and you were raised Christian.
Yes, most definitely.
And I don't know. It seems that you kind of go back and forth on that. I mean, how do you feel about that now?
Well, I don't know what you mean by back and forth.
Well, it seems that you at some points in the book, it seems that you want to say that Christ is the Son of God and kind of deify him, and at other points you seem to point to the fact that he's just an extraterrestrial or a spiritual guide that's in a higher plane than we are.
I think that the spirit of Jesus, we all throughout history and even today, we look at things in the physical. Everything's got to be physical. We can't really look into that spiritual realm, so to speak. We can't see it because we don't live in that spiritual realm, so we don't see it that much. But I think that the spirit of Jesus, and I mentioned in the book, either he was the true Son of God, or he was one of the highest, most highly advanced spiritual beings in God's universe. Either way, a highly advanced spirit, close to the source, shall we say? Mm-hmm. Because not to offend any religion, because I have great respect for all belief systems.
I don't, David, but that's okay. Especially not the religion of peace.
Here we go.
But yeah, I'm not going to get on. I'm not going to get on the Habibs of the world right yet. We're a
later
bit,
in the show, is it?
Yeah. We're a bit politically incorrect here.
Right. No, but I think that a belief system is a belief system, and I respect you for yours. I respect them for theirs, and I ask for the same respect. So this is a belief system. But I think that the physical body of Jesus was now not alien. I don't think Jesus was any more alien than you and I. That said, I believe that a physical being, probably an extraterrestrial being, many, many years ago, came to this primitive planet, and we are their experiment. In other words, through genetic engineering, created our human race out of using their DNA, and perhaps an ape-like a creature that was already on the face of the earth. Now, this is not a new theory.
Oh, no, not at all.
No. But I'm just saying I do believe it, and there is a lot of physical evidence, scientific evidence to support it, although the scientists are not about to say it, not about to rewrite the history books and the biology books.
Oh, why not? Come on, we're open to everything nowadays, aren't we?
But not mainstream science.
Oh, God, we've been open to mainstream science for years, haven't we? I don't know. One part, I'm going to jump off topic for a little bit, but it is in your book. But I thought one thing that really got me, that I'm trying to find it right now, it was talking about when the astronauts were on the moon for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very interesting. The conversation that they had between them and Houston, that you said that some of the others picked up, and it was basically saying that there was, I'm trying to find this, I'm sorry, I wanted to read it word for word. I don't know if I can find I know it's towards the end of the book, but it basically talks about where they see other alien spacecrafts on the moon.
Yes.
That are bigger than we are, and they're very frightened about this. I wonder if this somehow works into the whole idea. I'm sure you're familiar with the smokestack on the moon and those kinds of theories that have been around for quite some time.
Well, yeah, the base is on the moon, on the far side of the moon, on the back side of the moon, shall I say?
Yeah, and I wonder if that has any kind of connection there.
I don't see why, if they are indeed out there, shall we say, they couldn't have bases on, why not? Why couldn't they have bases on on Mars and on the moon, and of course on the far side of the moon to where we can't see them? Up until now, in other words, up until '69, we didn't have a man-made or a manned craft orbiting the moon.
Yeah.
So they could hide back there and use that as a base to come out and check on us or tweak our DNA, as I believe they have throughout history.
Yeah, it's on page 105 here. They're having a conversation. You know, what is it? We have some explanation for it. It says Aldrin. Houston says we have not. Don't worry. Continue your program. Armstrong says, oh boy, it is something similar to fantastic here. You could never imagine this. Houston says, Roger, we know about that. Could you go the other way? Go back the other way. Armstrong says, well, it's kind of rigged. Pretty spectacular. God, what is that there? It's hollow. What the hell is that? Houston says, go Tango, Tango. Armstrong says, it's a kind of light. There's kind of a light there now. Houston says, Roger, we've got it. We watched it. Lose communication. Bravo Tango, select Jezebel. Yaha, but this is unbelievable. Houston says, we call you up. Bravo Tango. And then apparently some others pick these things up through using, according to your book here, even though worldwide communication ceased at this point, unnamed radio hams using VHF receiving facilities were able to bypass NASA's broadcasting outlets and recorded the following transmission from Houston. What's there? Mission Control calling Apollo 11. Armstrong says, these babies are huge, sir, enormous. Oh, my God, you won't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out there lined up on the far side of the crater edge. They're on the moon watching us.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's amazing. And then you say that a former NASA employee, Otto Binder, later confirmed it and said that the astronauts were warned off by the aliens. When asked what he meant, he replied, I can't go into details except to say that their ships were far superior to ours, both in size and technology. Boy, they were big and menacing. No, there's no question of a space station. That's amazing stuff. I've never heard anything like this before.
No, I can't say that I have either.
Where did you come across that information?
I really can't tell you exactly.
Okay.
No, no, I'm kidding.
If I tell you, I have to kill you. No.
Yeah. But tell my wife. Anyway, this whole thing has been really in ufological circles, shall we call it, within the UFO community for quite some time, and astronauts like Gordon Cooper have had their own sightings, not only in space, but Gordon Cooper had a UFO sighting on the ground, and they took pictures, and the beings came out of the craft. I believe they came out of the craft on that occasion.
No.
But at any rate, it did land on 3 legs, and then went up into the well. The legs went up into the wells, and it took off. And they were filming at the time. And
wonder where that film went.
Oh yeah, Cooper said that they turned the film in, and although he did take the negatives and hold them up to the window, and he said we got good film of this craft. And, of course, that went off to the Pentagon and fell through the cracks, as most of them do.
Kind of like Kennedy's brain, huh?
Or the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, okay.
But, yeah, you know, I mean, you see all of these kinds of stories that go back a good ways throughout human history of humans being involved in these interactions with aliens. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, Joshua P. Warren, does a show called Speaking of Strange in Asheville at WWNC. And he had a guy on, I think, last week that said that people that smoked, for some reason, never got abducted by aliens. Mm-hmm. Have you heard this theory before?
No.
So I figure if I keep smoking cigarettes, I'm okay.
There you go. That's
I guess
one idea.
Maybe because they want healthy specimens or whatever to study.
Maybe. I mean, maybe that's the idea.
But if that's the case, then, they wouldn't pick up, alcoholics or people with mental problems.
Disorders or I mean, a wide range of things.
Anybody with any kind of
But if you notice, most of the people that have these abduction stories, they do have plausible stories, and they're not what you would consider to be the town crazy or the town drunk or whatever. Yeah. They're normal, everyday people.
Yeah.
Well, I know of through MUFON, I know of abductees who smoke.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that just dashes that theory right out the door.
In fact, I think that's a little silly. I hate to be...
Well, this is just what I heard. I didn't actually hear the show. This was told to me by someone that didn't hear it last week, and I was like, really? That's really odd. I should bring that up tonight.
That seems like a crazy criteria.
Oh, yeah.
Even though I just supported it a minute ago.
I hear stories like Iran has methane gas from one of the moons of Jupiter and things like this. Well, that's just silly. I mean, do they have it delivered, or do they go pick it up themselves? What?
Yeah.
Where would they have that?
Let's move back onto this UFO-Jesus connection thing real quick. Now, I know one of the theories that you bring out in your book is the fact that you believe that the Star of Bethlehem was actually a UFO.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know exactly how you can with a full. I mean, I can understand from the painting, the Renaissance painting.
Yeah, I was about to mention that,
but then again, that was painted in the Renaissance. I mean, it tells us in the Bible that these wise men followed this star for quite a while. It appears to me that they obviously had some kind of astrological knowledge to be able to chart this path, because it took them a long time to make this journey to Bethlehem.
Yes, it took them a long time. But they talk about it being a star. There are also apocryphal verses that say that this star was so bright that it outshone, was brighter than the sun, outshone all the other stars, so that they could not be seen. Well, even a supernova would not cause that to happen.
Well, I mean, that's another thing I'm glad you brought up. The Apocrypha itself is something that most Christian theologians don't really consider inspired Word of God, and I mean, and there's good reason for that. If you go back to the history of the church, and you see, the reason the canons were created in the first place were to keep the most verifiable books in, and keep those that they weren't sure were verifiable out.
Yes, but at the same time, you have to consider, why were these books taken out? By whom were they taken out, and for what, back then, political reasons? Because Rome was in cahoots with the church at that time. I mean, the Caesars were in cahoots with the church at that time. And what were they trying to tell us? For example, reincarnation. I think you read in my book about reincarnation.
Yeah.
And the fact that reincarnation only recently was taken out of some of the Jewish faiths.
Uh-huh.
But Jewish faiths preached reincarnation. According to, historically, Jesus preached reincarnation, and it took.
But see, I really don't find that anywhere in the Bible, other than the vague reference you make to John the Baptist.
You're not going to find it in the Bible. Because
everybody took it out. It's a big conspiracy, I know.
But if it didn't agree with what the church was trying to tell the people.
See, first of all, the people you're quoting, a lot of them are Catholics. Most of them are Catholics, because most of the early church was. Mm-hmm. And I have a problem with Origen and some of these others that people consider to be Christian leaders, because if you look back at some of the ways that the Bible was historically delivered into certain areas and translated, you'll see that people like Origen, in some cases, were very, very what we would consider modern-day heretics.
Well, yeah, of course they were, because they didn't go along with what the church was trying to establish. What the church was trying to establish, and what Jesus had preached, obviously, if Origen was correct, well, that would have to be heretic. So they kill people for believing or preaching the reincarnation. And there's so much scientific evidence now that you can't put it underneath a microscope, but I mean there's a lot of evidence to suggest that reincarnation is indeed a fact.
But maybe perhaps the reason why the books were constructed in that way, and the reason why the Bible was put in that position, is because they were trying to protect the Christian faith from splintering into 1,000 different subgroups. I mean, you had the Gnostics, you had the Manichaeans, you had the Arian heresy, which completely dominated, Northern Europe and North Africa for a long time. And these other sub-sects, would have splintered Christianity into just, 1,000 different faiths. And wouldn't it kind of filter down and slowly but surely kind of disseminate what Jesus was talking about?
Well, right now there are about 1,200 Christian faiths, all based on Christianity, but they go under different names because they disagree. For example, my sister for a while belonged to the Church of Christ, and she said that there were two factors. One, they got in a big argument about whether or not angels had feet, and some said angels have feet, and the other said angels don't have feet, and they broke up into different...
like that whole Adam and Eve belly button thing, right?
Could be. Same thing. And it's all an interpretation. And if all Christians have the basic, tenet toward Christ, Son of God, Son of Man, etc., 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 except they differ in so many different ways, or they look at scriptures and translate them differently. So they break off, and now they become Baptists, they become Lutherans, they become, it's all based on Christianity.
That may be true, but in general, like Protestant denominations splintering off like that have the same kind of basic principles of, a unique, separate but equal Trinity, for example, right. Jesus Christ the Savior. I mean, the Arians were talking about something crazy. I mean, that there wasn't a Trinity that was separate, that there were hierarchies of the divinity. For example, the Manichaeans were talking about, vomiting up prayers, like Augustine was saying. Just really just far, far, far out the way from what most people would consider, the Orthodox faith of what's going on. But that's neither here nor there.
But we've got 1 minute till our break, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to talk about good old Ezekiel and what he saw next, and we're going to we're going to take a couple different spins on it and see what you guys think. You can give us a call here, 877-722-7382. That's toll free in the United States and Canada. 877-SCARE-U2 or locally 336-996-1596. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight our guest is David Twichell, and his website, can you give that to me again, David?
Yeah, UFOimplications.com.
UFOimplications.com. We'll be back in just a moment right after this.
And we're back, World of the Unexplained. Tonight we got David Twichell. You guys out there, we know you out there. Here are the numbers. 1-877-722-7382 or 1-877-SCARE-U2. Same number. I don't know why I put or in there. The local number is 336-996-1596. Don't forget to hop into the chat room and post some questions there. But we really want you to call. So
yeah, call in if you can.
Let's get to Ezekiel, Scott.
Yeah, and in chapter 3 of your book, David, you quote extensively Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 1 through 28. And I don't have a Bible in front of me. I'm going to go down to where it talks about the living creatures. Mm-hmm. And each living creature had 4 different faces: a human face in the front, a lion's face at the right, a bull's face at the left, and an eagle's face at the back. Mm-hmm. 2 wings of each creature were raised so they touched the tips of the wings of the creatures next to it, and the other wings were folded against their bodies. Each creature faced all 4 directions, and so the group could go wherever they wished without having to turn. I don't know which version you're taking this translation from. I know the one translation I read, instead of saying bull, it said ox, but basically same thing, I guess.
Same creature.
What do you make of that?
I think that what he was witnessing was a landed UFO as we would view it today. Of course, they didn't have any kind of aircraft back then. They couldn't say, well, this must be America's prototypes. So what did they have to relate it with? They knew it was a vehicle because it, humanoid beings came out of it, and in fact took him up into it.
Yeah.
And so this is what became the chariots. And, of course, the chariot of fire thing, of course, you see electric lights. If you'd have no concept of electricity, and you see a craft with electric lights, you're going to say, well, this chariot, this vehicle, is on fire, because that's what it looks like to them.
No, what do you make of all the faces?
I think that these were decals, not decals as we know them, but that is a good question, exactly what it was. But I was guessing in my book, actually, that this could possibly be like we have American flags on the space shuttle.
Yeah.
A decal of such.
Well, I've got my own interpretation here. Now, I stole this from somebody else, though, so it's not really mine, but it's just an interpretation that I tend to put full credence in. And I think I am a fundamentalist, by the way, but I'm also, I do think the Bible not only works in, literal translations, but I also think that there's, what's the word I'm looking for, Trent?
Esoteric, metaphysical.
Parallels?
No, gosh, I just can't think tonight. My vocabulary is decreasing as I continue to talk. Metaphors. Thank you. Yeah.
Revisions.
Yeah, and I think here, I think we see, this is kind of an illusion, I think, a biblical illusion we see here, a literary illusion. A human face in the front. I think this one of the theories of what this verse means that I've read that I tend to agree with is this. The human face would represent Christ in perfect humanity. The lion's face would represent Christ as king. The bull's face or the ox's face would represent Christ as servant. And the eagle's face would represent Christ's divinity.
Okay, now this was at least 1,000 years before Christ.
Well, the Bible predicted Christ before he came thousands of years. I mean, there's over 400 prophecies that tie in. I mean, there's Christ either is the luckiest human being that's ever walked on the face of the earth to be able to just drop right in the middle and fulfill all these testimonies, or he's what he says he was. And I mean, just from the lineage, the human lineage, as well as the other prophetic things that were said. I mean, I think it's, you talk about Edward Casey in your book,
right,
and how he, has the idea that the karma that you talk about, what you do in this life, you have to repay. You have to do something to make that even out in the next. And Edgar Casey basically was claiming that Adam, since he caused man to fall, he reincarnated as Jesus Christ to save man and give himself in salvation.
Wow, that's some pretty...
Yeah, I told you the guy was satanic. Anyway, but the point is,
Well,
satanically inspired. It's satanically inspired. But, what I see that, and then I see... I don't know where I was going with this now.
That's a good...
I was trying to draw a parallel here, and now I've just lost my train of thought.
At the end of the interview, Scott's going to turn into a caveman.
I am. I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. I've been sick the last week. I've not been on my...
May have killed some brain cells.
I'm serious, man. It's been awful. I'm serious. Oh, it's awful.
May his own crank.
But you look at these kinds of things and all that. And I mean, like I said, it's just. It's crazy. There's some crazy stuff going on in here. You say that, I mean, I don't know, if you look at the lineage and the things that had to be fulfilled for Jesus to be who he said he was, and it seems that in certain chapters you treat even the Immaculate Conception as some kind of extraterrestrial IVF. And, the bright light, the insemination of Mary was actually done by an alien spaceship.
Well, you say alien. But you see, if these beings were their ancestors were the ones that seeded our planet through DNA, through genetic engineering, it's no different than if some man from France came to America and had a family and then went back to France, and then many years later his great-great-great-grandchild came over, would he be alien? He would be no more alien, he was still a human being. So these, what we call Nordics, the quote-unquote aliens that look just like us, maybe they don't just look like us. Maybe we look like them, and we look like them for a reason. And that reason is because we are of their DNA. We are their experiment.
Yeah.
And, of course, they tell us where they're from. Well, you say, where are you from? We're from out there. Well, you've got to look up to see out there. We always consider, given we're earthbound, that heaven or the aliens, whatever, extraterrestrials, are up there. But when you're looking at the earth from the moon, you can see that everything is out there. And we are just a planet, and our sun is just a star among many. And there just has to be other beings out there, intelligent beings.
No, I don't disagree with it. There's not intelligent
either.
beings, but to kind of go to the idea that Christ is an alien, that just kind of...
How would he be an alien?
That's what I'm saying. It's definitely blasphemy, I think, in most levels of most churches I know of. I know there's a lot of new fringe groups out there, but...
No, I'm saying he's not alien. I'm saying if another race from another planet seeded our human race here, then our human race is just, we were made in their likeness, as it says in Genesis. Let us make them in our likeness.
Yeah, well, that was referring to the Trinity: God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit.
Okay, that may well have been.
I think it's an interpretation a lot of people like to throw out there and say us, that, well, it must have mean there's more than one, so it's obviously that the Bible's wrong.
Well, I mean, okay, and also...
And that's what a lot of people say, and I don't think that's accurate.
If you're going by that rationale that, we're seeded from other beings from another world that are like us, okay, I can see, well, we really wouldn't be alien in respect to them. However...
they would be alien in respect to us.
Technologically or whatever, but I mean, it still comes down to the fundamental fact that if that's the case, then, what of the deific powers? That there's one God and one Jesus and one, the Holy Spirit that's through us all, and if it's the product of an entire race of people, right. If Jesus is the product of an entire race of people living in, the Gliese galaxy, that planet that we just found. I'm just using that as a point of example. But, then what does that make of God and the nature of that?
One of his children, just like they are. Okay. In fact, many abductees have claimed to have asked their captors, is there a God, or do you believe in God, or something to that effect? And they will respond, we are all of the same God.
And that's why my Genesis 6 theory about the aliens being demons would all play into this great deceptive tactic. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. You do talk a little bit about Genesis 6, though, in your book. What does that make Jesus, then? Does that make him a liar?
In what way?
Well, I mean, he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but through me.
Right.
Except me and my cousin that live on that other planet.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, does that make him a liar? I mean, he said he's the Son of God.
Not at all. You have to bear in mind that Jesus, 2,000 years ago, had to speak to the people on this planet as they would understand. And it wasn't the physical body that was speaking to him. It was his spirit. His soul was speaking to these people. He was communicating. His physical body was just a vehicle in which he could mingle with the physical people.
Okay, now this sounds like some of the high Christology stuff that you see in some of the Gnostic Gospels. That Christ was here, but he wasn't.
He wasn't truly a man.
He wasn't truly a man. He was, but the Bible tells us that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what you mean by not truly a man, because physically, you and I are men, and physically, Jesus was a man. Except you and I have the spark of God in us, as well as Jesus. But his soul was more advanced than most, shall we say?
So, but what I'm saying is this flies in the face of the whole idea of everything that Christ taught. So, does that make Christ a liar? Because he says that God, he is God and God is him, and that's it. He doesn't put us on the same plane as he raises himself to. Obviously, he says, yes, we're all sons and daughters, yada, yada, yada. But it's implicit in everything that's said that he's definitely not only on a higher plane, but that he is. I mean, he's telling people, hey, I am God. So what do you make of that?
I don't read that into what Jesus has said. I don't read in that he's saying, I am God. I am the Son of God. Yes, but
I mean, don't you think that if we were all sons and daughters of God, but he paid our way with his sacrifice, I mean, doesn't that make him bigger?
Well, most definitely. I don't believe that there's any soul ever alive that could have endured knowing what he was about to endure, and he did know what he was about to endure. It is written that he knew what was coming. He could have ran. He could have not gone into Jerusalem, but he did, because that's why he came. That's why he came. And going back to the reincarnation thing, assuming that reincarnation is true, who would be the most likely candidate to pay for the sins of the world except the soul who plunged the world?
Well, then that would be Eve.
I missed that. What?
I said that would be Eve, then, wouldn't it? I mean, she's the one that bit the apple first. I mean, come on now, David. I mean, why Adam? Why does the man always take the fall here?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
why not be the devil? You know, he's the one that started the whole thing in the first
there
place.
You go. There's Lucifer.
And actually, that's
where does his
argument.
karmic justice come from?
Yeah.
We've got a caller apparently. Ron from Raleigh, North Carolina. Ron, you're on World of the Unexplained. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, Jay. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Excellent.
Good. Thanks for listening.
It's no problem. I think the show's going quite well.
Oh, great.
Thanks.
Look, I was going to call in and talk about, Christ when he was crucified and he left the earth. He came back to show himself to his disciples, obviously risen from the dead. And then he left the earth to go into another dimension. The divinity of Christ, the way I see it, and at least the way it's been explained to me, is that he has all those powers. He is the fulfillment of all these things, including time travel, and to be able to fight against Satan, who also travels through time. Remember when Christ was tempted by Satan, Satan showed him throughout all time all the glory and the power in three-dimensional space that he would have power over. And he offered it to Jesus in exchange for his divinity, and he said, of course, no. And for Satan to get behind him. So when you talk about the possibility that Jesus was reincarnated from another part of three-dimensional space and then brought into the earth and moved somehow and then reincarnated here, totally negates the fact that he exists always in that other place. That is what his divinity is. That is where he is from. And that we...
Ron, are you on a cell phone? We're having a hard time hearing some of what you're saying.
Fading a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it totally is a cell phone. It's the only connection I've got right now.
Okay, no problem. Can you hear him okay, David?
I'll just listen from here on out. I think you guys are going well with exactly where I would go with it. So.
Oh, do you have a question for David, or?
Well, there's no questions that really leap to mind. What was the most of all these revelations that you have with Jesus and the possibility of UFOs? Do you have anything about the New Jerusalem? What do you think about that?
Okay. Thanks for calling, Ron.
Excellent question.
Hey, no problem, Jay.
All right, take care.
Bye.
God bless you.
I wish I could give an excellent answer, but I really don't. I have an opinion on that.
Okay.
The New Jerusalem.
Well, that blew that one out of the water.
Yeah.
Excellent call.
Call in. We won't answer your question. Give us a call, 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-U2, or locally 336-996-1596. Come on out there in Arizona. I know you guys are listening to us on KWSS, Scottsdale, Arizona. How do you guys feel about it? I know you've had border control issues. Thank God. I noticed that they have sent some of North Carolina's finest out there to guard our borders from the illegal Mexican insurgents. So,
insurgents?
Yes, they're insurgents.
Some
of them are, yeah.
Especially the ones working for Los Narcotraficantes.
Exactly. Well, we're guarding those borders, though. So, guys in Scottsdale, if you're listening out there, and I know you are at KWSS, give us a call. Guys in Washington, I know you're listening. I know you don't have any unprotected borders. So give us a call.
Canadian insurgents.
Yeah, the Canadian insurgents. You got to watch out, man. These jihadis, man, they're everywhere, and they're going to try to get in any way they can.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
We were talking about, last thing I remember talking about the devil and where's karmic
justice come from. I'm going to skip over that for now, though. I want to know. You talk about these UFOs being the cloud that guided the
pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire.
The pillar of cloud, the pillar of fire that guided the Exodus. Wouldn't these people be able to tell the difference between a giant spaceship and a cloud?
No.
No.
No, there were 5 things that were above treetop level, and that was the sun, the moon, clouds, the birds, and the stars. And if you see something back then above treetop level, it has to fit in one of those categories. Just like today, we have.
Well, there were the pyramids. That's 6. Come on. So there were the pyramids.
The pyramids.
that's above treetop level.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they knew they were the pyramids because they saw the bottoms of them go up.
Yeah, the pyramids hadn't quite reached that treetop.
But what I'm saying is that they're using tools. I mean, you yourself talk about the tools that the Egyptians used to create
Egyptian
electricity.
Battery.
And
very interesting.
The light bulb. They're using other tools. I just think that I would be able to describe it in different detail. I wouldn't say, okay, well, that's definitely I would know the difference between a cloud and something.
Pillar. The fact that they describe it as a pillar, like a cylindrical object.
And I understand these are ancient peoples, and they have, a limited way to describe things. But I would definitely describe it as being more than just a cloud.
Well, no, it wasn't described as a cloud, but a pillar of cloud, pillar of fire. They saw a pillar. They saw the what we call now cigar-shaped UFO, and during the day it would create this cloud. I saw a cloud like this, a cloud of smoke, in my sighting in 1962.
Oh, that's true, you did.
And then the fire, of course, would be at night where the lights were on, and UFOs are reported to have lights, of course, at night.
Also, if this is the case, this is probably the longest recorded UFO encounter ever in the history of the world.
Yes, indeed. Now, whether it appeared and disappeared or whether it was constantly in sight, I don't know. The Bible makes it sound like it was indeed constantly in sight.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
in that case, then why are they taking them to Jerusalem? Why Canaan? Why the Promised Land? Why not some other place? Why not? I don't know. Greece.
I don't know. I get a picture of. I get a picture of this vehicle just roaming around, and these people just following it, and the guys in the UFO are saying, "Why are they following us?" I don't know, but it would seem like it would.
That would be something.
Can you see this? I'm not making light of the situation, but it's very possible that was the case. And they weren't trying to lead them at all. Then again, as I suggest in the book, what they were helping to free the slaves, because the enslavement of one race of people by another race of human beings is not right, and it's not what they would. They were much more advanced than that. And so they were helping them in this way.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then why didn't they help the Greek and Roman slaves, for that matter, or the the Babylonian slaves, or all the other cultures that were slave owners?
I couldn't answer that.
Well, I mean, I have this question. And they appeared as a pillar cloud there for the Exodus, but yet Ezekiel sees something that's completely different. Why do we have a discrepancy here?
Well, probably it could well be because of the different races of extraterrestrials. There have been like 150 different types of looking extraterrestrials or species that have been recorded by alleged abductees, and only God knows how many are out there and how many have visited this little primitive planet.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going with the same theme that one race seeded this world with what we are, then the common logic would say that same race, if they're going to aid us, it would be the same types of beings.
Yeah, and when they kick the other guys out to the curb, hey, that's our planet.
That's right, and that's probably what's going on. I think that, there are malevolent people, benevolent people, and indifferent people all over this planet. And I wouldn't expect it to be any different throughout God's universe.
Well, that would make sense. And actually, that brings me up to another issue that, and I hate to bring it up, but the reptilian agenda. The fact what David Icke says, and
the reptilian agenda.
A number of other.
Watch out, George W. We know what you are.
Yeah. Basically that there's a shadow world of another group of people that have been seeded with this reptilian DNA that are trying to, like that Star Trek thing from Arena, Chuck. That's a very good point. Anyway.
That's who they are.
Yeah. That's what they look like.
This must be the greens instead of the grays. I don't know.
Well, if we just had Kirk kicking their butts. But anyway.
Right.
So my point is, if they have some kind of shadowy agenda to try to, control the world for evil purposes, I mean, what do you take about that?
They may well have some shadowy agenda. There may be others with shadowy agendas. Many people say the Greys. I hear a lot of stories about the Greys being very helpful or very, very understanding. Personally, I think they're just indifferent. I think they're clones. I think they're being used by whatever race of extraterrestrial to do their work, whether it's their dirty work or not. Now, back in the times of the ancient times, or times of the Bible, these humanoid beings appeared themselves. They didn't see any Greys, although there are stone carvings of what looks like the Greys in ancient history. But they didn't have much to fear because of their advanced technologies. They weren't afraid of the sticks and stones and spears that might be threatening them.
Oh, I mean, they wouldn't be afraid now, would they? I mean, think of how many years they've had to continue to grow, right?
Yeah, well, we have a lot more sophisticated weapons, too, and they're flesh and bone, too. So, in fact, we have downed them, their craft. And there's a lot of evidence that there have been several crashes of UFOs, and we are hiding the bodies and the technology and back engineering it.
What is it, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? Is that
right.
The one? Yeah. Well, guys, we've got one minute here, so I'm going to go ahead and plug your site again. That's www.ufoimplications.com. We have Mr. David Twichell with us tonight. The name of the book is The UFO-Jesus Connection. And where can they get this book at, David?
Anywhere where fine books are sold.
Okay, where's the best place for them to get this book at?
They can go to my website, ufoimplications.com, order it through me. They can go through Amazon, or they can go to the bookstore, and if they don't have it on the shelf, they'll order it for you. They can also go to the library if they don't have it in their system. Ask them why not.
Okay.
Yeah. Get a copy in.
Why
Good
not
enough.
Public library system?
That's right. That's right. Why pay for your book when we can get it for free? No.
All right.
Because it's that good, you want it as a copy on your bookshelf.
Yes.
And it's
all right.
We're going to get rich off of this book, so you might, the purpose is to get the word out of this.
Every Halloween at midnight, the devil simultaneously appears in two places: the high plains of India and a quiet cemetery in Kansas. It's November 2nd, the Day of the Dead. Two federal marshals report to the small town of Shinbone, Kansas, moments after a tornado warning, to transport a prisoner with no past, no identity. He is known only as Sin Jin Smith. Starring Roddy Piper, Richard Tyson, Jonathan Davis, Kevin Gage, Gary Casper, John Vilbin, Billy Duffy, Charles Cypers, and Eileen Dietz. Check out the movie that critics are calling one of 2007's most anticipated horror films by visiting www.sinjinsmith.com. That's www.sin-jinsmyth.com. St. Jin Smith is a Snapkick Productions film, written and directed by Ethan Detmeyer. Coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. Worldly Unexplained, still Worldly Unexplained, still Trent Lackey, still Jay Scott, still David Twichell. The number is 1-877-722-7382. The local number is 336-996-1596. We gotta get back on track.
I'm just disappointed that smoking cigarettes will not save me from alien abduction.
Wow. Big Tobacco probably would use that angle too, if like.
I'd walk a mile for a camel. I mean, going up to today's standards,
imagine the poster of like the aliens in there like running in terror as the guys like smoking a cigarette.
Not a cough in the cart, and now we've got the new not an alien abduction in the pack. That's right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we gotta get back on track.
Well, let's talk about astral projection.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
You talk about when you were 16?
Yes, I was 16. I belonged to this hypnosis group, mostly of old men, but I guess they needed members, so they let me in. It was just one of those groups that amateur hypnotists that got together once a month and discussed paranormal things and things hypnosis related. At any rate, one of them told me about astral projection. I thought, geez, I've never heard of this. And told me how to leave my body. So, of course, I gave it a whirl.
Oh, yeah.
And I found myself hovering over my body. And I had worked in a part-time in a dime store for Christmas.
And we don't have those anymore.
No, we don't have that. We don't even have dollar stores. Go into a dollar store, everything's
that's like $3.50.
Yeah, it's like $2.50 to $11.
Well, I think we still do have those everything's a dollar stores around here.
All you find is just trolls.
It's like erasers. Pencil. Here, how about pencil for $1? Yeah, but we still do have some of those.
A 6-pack of crayons.
That's it.
Anyway,
but
go ahead.
I found myself out of my body, and I thought of the store, and of course this was late at night, and zip, I was there. It was like I was standing still, and everything was whisking past me. And then I found myself in the store, and the merchandise was covered up, and the security lights were on. Now, if this were a dream, I would think that it would be during the day when I was working in the store, things I was used to. I wasn't used to being there in a lonely dime store without anybody in it.
Yeah.
And I found myself walking around in that dime store, checking it all out, and then I thought, my father's going to wake up and find me dead. So I zipped right back to my house. And I realized it was too early for my father to wake up, so I sat down on the living room couch, and then I heard my father's alarm go off, which startled me back into my body, and I found I was paralyzed. I was perfectly conscious in the body, but I could not move a muscle, which lasted about a minute, and then I could move again. And of course, like I said, up until that evening before, I hadn't heard anything about astral projection or leaving the body or anything like this. And then it was a few years later, I read the book Projection of the Astral Body by Sylvain Muldoon and Hayward Carrington. And everything that I experienced, according to the book, I should have experienced. Looking back down at the body, everything, you feel like you're standing still and everything's whisking past you. And if your body comes back, or rather if your soul comes back into your body quickly, you will be temporarily paralyzed for about a minute. So, I didn't know that this is what I was to expect. If I had read a book on it, you could say, well, that was a dream. He expected to have all of these things. But I really didn't know that that's what I was to expect.
No, then have you done this since then? I mean, do you still do this?
I can't do it consciously. I tried consciously then, and it worked. After that, I haven't been able to do it consciously.
Huh.
But there was one time where I came home from work. I was grown up and married at the time. In fact, this was my second wife. And she always had these stuffed animals sitting up on the bed.
Yeah, you mentioned this one in the book as well.
Right. And for some reason, the stuffed animals weren't on the bed. So I'm used to working. I was used to working afternoons, and I had been put on the day shift, so I was very tired when I got home. I flopped face down on the bed, and the next thing I know, I'm standing at the foot of the bed, and the whole room is shaking. And I look at these. There are stuffed animals over on the dresser, I believe it was, next to the bed, and they were jumping up and down. And in my half-conscious mind, I'm thinking they're alive, you know?
I can imagine.
So I remember going down underneath the bed and looking underneath the bed, and on the far side of the bed were these two particular stuffed animals that, of course, were bouncing up and down. And I got up, and I realized I was out of my body, and I was too close to the body. Therefore, if you're too close to the body, the silver cord or astral cord, as you will, kind of tugs on the spirit and makes it shake. But you don't feel like you're shaking. Your soul doesn't feel like it's shaking. It makes it appear that everything around you is shaking. So I decided to get away from the body, the physical body. I moved away from it, and I found myself at a door, brightly illuminated on the other side. And I was kind of apprehensive about going through this door. And some man whom I recognized but couldn't put my finger on, didn't know who he was, but I thought, I know this guy, says to me, "We're not ready for you yet," which drew me back into my body, to my physical body.
So who do you think this man was?
Who was that guy?
Not a clue, but probably someone that I either knew in the physical world, or perhaps in another life, in a spirit life before I was born. Don't know.
Now, you mentioned a crucifix in the book.
Yes, I looked into the room, and I did see a crucifix on the wall. It's a brightly illuminated room with a crucifix on the wall.
Huh.
And
now, I'm assuming you didn't have this crucifix on your wall at your house.
No, not at all. No. But when I found myself back in my body, I got up, and I looked around the room for the first time. I mean, I literally walked into the room and fell down on the bed face first and went to sleep. When I got up, the stuffed animal that I saw bouncing on the dresser to my left was there. And I remember looking under the bed, so I went over to the other side of the bed, and sure enough, here are the two stuffed animals that I had seen in my quote-unquote dream/astral projection, whichever it was. And so I just wonder what that door was. Did I go into a dream, or was I actually at the door, so to speak?
Well, you mentioned another story about one of your family members dying and saying that his son's waiting for him at the door, and he didn't know his son had died at the time he died.
This was Steve. Steve was my aunt's sister's husband who passed. Steve was here in Michigan, and he had had a brain tumor or a blood clot on the brain, and fell down getting ready for work. His wife had gone to work. He fell down, and he was halfway dressed for work, so he was just in his underwear. He laid there all day until his wife came home and found him, and of course took him to the hospital, and he had developed pneumonia as a result, and he did not know that his father at that time was in Florida on his deathbed. And likewise, they didn't tell his father that Steve was on his deathbed in Michigan. And it was, I forget the times now, I'd have to look in the book, but let's say 10 minutes till 2 in the afternoon when Steve passed away. And about 10 after 2 in Florida, about 20 minutes later, his father said to the people around him, "I have to go now. Steve is waiting for me at the door," and slipped away.
So you don't know if he was referring to the door or just the door in the hospital room?
No, I don't. But you hear a lot of these testimonies, deathbed testimonials, where they'll talk about a door or a river. As my grandmother was dying, she saw a river over to her left where there was a wall. She says, "Do you see that house on the other side of the river?" And I just played along. I said, "Yeah, I see it." And she says, "That's where I'm going to go when I die. When that river comes closer to me, I'm going to die." And I guess she watched for quite some time as this river slowly moved toward her. And then, 5 months after, she died of cancer, lung cancer, and lingered for 5 months. So I guess that river finally caught up to her, and she passed over it.
It's odd that you mention these doors and these rivers, because you do mention in your book, you talk about near-death experiences, and Dr. Raymond Moody, which we've had the honor of having on our show before. Really smart man, really nice guy. How do you put those two together?
The near-death experiences?
Yeah, versus because in the NDEs generally you don't talk about, you don't hear about rivers or doors. You generally hear about tunnels and
bright lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all part and parcel of the same thing. I think someone who is dying, I think that if it's gradual, they will experience this line or a river. They will see it. They see both on the physical and on the astral plane. Just like in an out-of-body experience, you see on the astral plane and the physical plane. Then the near-death experiences are generally very abrupt. They're electrocuted or they're hit by a car, whatever, and they have a near-death experience where they will see this tunnel. I think that if it's a gradual, progressive thing where they slowly die, they will see this door, they'll see this river, they'll see this line of demarcation that where they realize that once that line comes up to them, or they go to or through the line or through the door, they will leave the physical body. And then, and only then, will they experience the tunnel. And the rest of it that those who have near-death experiences do have. I think that those who have had a quote-unquote near-death experience, the silver cord or the astral cord does not break. Once that cord is broken, there is no getting back in the body and telling about it. But I think it becomes very thin. The astral body can move away from the physical indefinitely and go into that other dimension, other frequency, if you will.
So do you think that when we dream, in a lot of cases, we were astrally projecting ourselves and not even knowing that we're doing it?
Yes, according to those who tout the astral projection hypothesis, when you dream, when you sleep, the spirit comes slightly out of coincidence with the physical to recharge with the cosmic energy that's all around us, this 0-point energy, and then settles back into the body to animate the body.
No, I know you had mentioned at one point that the group that you were meeting with when you were a teenager, you said that they had warned you that if you went out, there was a possibility of something else slipping in. Right.
I think that's why I was unable to do it again consciously, because that kind of scared me. But I really don't think that's the case. I don't think that does happen.
Because of that cord?
Because of that cord. I think that I think my spirit would put up a heck of a fight if somebody's trying to get in.
Unless they showed up with a pair of scissors,
using
right?
This body, Are you going to be using this for a while?
Yeah, let me borrow this for just a second here.
Yeah, unless they, like you say, unless they have a pair of silver scissors.
Silver scissors for the silver cord.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just floating around there in the.
Where does this put you with your belief system, though, now, as far as where it stands? I mean, what do you think?
As to religion?
Yeah.
Well, I certainly, like I say, I believe in a spiritual creator. I believe in one source, an energy source that with a consciousness that is what we all refer to as God. And I think that these sparks, like thoughts out of our own, from our own minds, sparks from that God source go out and become their own individual spirits, souls, or energy sources with conscious minds, but we're still connected to the main source. And these sparks can go out and either remain in the spiritual realm or any dimension, or come into physical bodies and use these containers to express themselves and create their own karma, so to speak. And whatever they mess up, they must correct, whether it's in this life or the next. Whatever they, and then the ultimate purpose is to get back to the God source, to get back to that source. And if it takes them several lifetimes, be it here in physical, or on another planet in physical, or in some other type of body, no matter how dense or not dense it might be, or just on the spiritual realm. The ultimate goal is to get back to that source that is God.
Well,
heavy.
Yeah, seems a bit
misguided, but that's you talk about seeing dead family members. You talk about doing seances. You talk about all these delvings into the metaphysical world. When did this really start with you? I mean, obviously at 16 you were doing the astral projection stuff, but when was the first time that you had any kind of contact with otherworldly spirits? I guess is the way I would describe them, ghosts, for lack of a better term. I
never really saw a departed family member.
No, you did. You did. That's right. Your sister saw the departed family member. You heard your grandmother banging on the walls.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because even then, when I was 17 years old, I would talk to my grandmother, who was fundamentalist, and I said, if it's possible, Grandma, when you die, come back and knock on the wall for me, so I know that you're all right. And well, it's not possible. Well, if it is possible, well, it's not possible. So finally, I got her to say, "Okay, David, if it's possible, I'll come back and knock on the wall for you." and that'll shut the kid up,
Yeah.
And it was many years after that I grew up, got married, went off to the Army, and came back before my grandmother passed. And after she did pass, my mother took over the house, and my grandfather moved in with her, with my mother, and they got rid of all of the household furnishings from my grandparents' home, and they were about to sell the house, and the keys were going to be turned over the next day, when I had this, what I feel is an out-of-body experience again. I went to the house. I went to my grandmother's house, and all the furniture was gone. Now, I had never seen that house with all the furniture gone. Ever since I was a kid, that house had furniture in it. And but in my quote-unquote dream, there was no furniture. And then I saw my grandmother as she looked when she died. Now, she was reduced to about 90 pounds when she died, because she suffered with cancer for 5 months. And she started to come toward me and put her arms around me, and it kind of repelled me, the way she looked. And so she stepped back. And I saw this woman that, once again, I can't place her, but I think it was a departed family member who would come to act as a guide for my grandmother. She said to my grandmother, "You're scaring him, Florence." And so she presented herself to me as I knew her before she became ill. And that was all right. So I could hold her, and I said, once again, in the dream, if it was a fanciful dream, I would have, just had a conversation with her like I normally do. I would have. But I knew she was dead, and I told her, "Grandma, you're dead." She said, "No, they locked me in the house. I can't get out of the house." I said, "You're dead. You can leave." "No, I can't." I said, "You can walk right through the wall." Oh, she couldn't understand that. I said, "You want to be with Grandpa, don't you?" "Yes." I said, "Well, he's over at Mom's house. Come on, let's go." I said, "Just walk up to the wall and go right through it." So she said, "Okay, I'll try." And she walked up to the wall, and of course, her idea of physicality would not allow her to go through the wall, and she bounced off the wall and fell on the floor, which startled me, and I zipped back to my body again. So I told my mother about it the next day. I said, "I want the key to the house before you sell this."
Uh-huh.
So she gave me, she didn't want to go along with this idea at all, but she gave me the key. And I went over to the house, and I talked to the walls, because I couldn't see Grandma. But I told her, explained to her that she's dead, and she could leave by walking through the walls. But then I thought, oh, no, that didn't work well last night, so don't do that again. So I went to the door, and I opened the door, and I said, "This is your last chance to get out of here." And I held the door open for a few seconds, and then I closed the door, and that's the last I was in that house. That night, it had just started to snow, first snow of the season, and I'm lying in bed. We had a big dog, and all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang on the walls, and the dog started barking, and this woke me up, and I went around the house looking out the windows, checking the doors. We had two little kids. They were asleep, and who's pranking me here, And the dog settled down, and I got back to bed, but I couldn't get back to sleep because I was upset about this being awakened. And all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang again, the dog started barking and looking around. Well, normally, if somebody's knocking at the door, the dog would head right for the door. But the dog, I could see why the dog was looking around like that, because it seemed like there was no direction from which this banging was coming. It was coming from all over the walls of the house. So the next day, and once again I checked everything out, and no one was there. So the next morning I said, aha, a light snowfall, there's going to be footprints. And I walked all the way around that house looking for footprints of the prankster that was knocking on my walls, and there was nothing. And then I remembered the pact with my grandmother that she would knock on the walls once she had died, if she could. And the fact that I had this out-of-body experience, and she thought she was locked in the house, she couldn't get out. And perhaps when I opened the door, she found her chance to sneak out the door and was knocking at on the walls to tell me goodbye.
Well, now, why not go to the light? Well, I'm assuming that this is what you hear all the time. Go to the light, go to the light.
Yeah, you do. But there are so many earthbound entities because they don't know they can go to the light. They think they're still alive. They see themselves as physical. They think when I'm dead, and that's it. And of course, my grandmother was very, very Christian. But at the same time, she was expecting a certain thing. I don't know what she expected. I heard two different things from her throughout my childhood. One, Jesus is going to come down and meet you and take you up to heaven. And two, he he was going to wait until the Armageddon and the end of the world, and then dig your grave up and put your body back together. That was kind of confusing to me. I mean, you can have it one way or the other. But if you find yourself out of your body and still conscious, you feel you're alive, and yet you can't grab onto doorknobs, you can't get out of the house, it must be very confusing, even if someone is there from the spiritual realm trying to guide you. And so they're very afraid to go anywhere. They're very afraid to do anything until somebody convinces them that this is otherwise. And you hear these stories all the time, which doesn't fit with traditional Christianity. I understand that.
And we're back on World of the Unexplained with David Twichell, author of The UFO-Jesus Connection. Give us a call. I don't know if you guys are asleep tonight or what. 877-SCARE-U2. That's 877-722-7382. It's toll free in Canada and the United States. Or locally, 336-996-1596 if you're in the Kernersville, North Carolina area, or Triad area, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point.
Give us a call there.
Give us a call locally. Or if you just want to call us locally, I guess you can call us from Canada and use the local number. We really don't care, but toll free, 877.
You just have tons of money sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, the 877 may throw you off because it's not 800. I wonder how many people don't know that 877 is toll free.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
we tell them that every show.
That's because I don't know how many people don't know, because there are a lot of stupid people in the world. If you're one of those listening that doesn't know, I didn't point that at you directly. Well, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
You're an idiot if you don't know that 877 is still free, okay? Call me and complain about that, okay? Or call me and talk about the Islamo-fascists that are slowly but surely taking over America. We can talk about that, too.
But I'd rather talk about,
demons, I know.
Demons. Yeah.
How do you know, David, that...
I always like to talk about it.
How do you know that...
Old scratch.
These things that you're experiencing are not demonically charged? How do you know that wasn't Grandma you were talking to, but it was some Luciferian deception?
Well, I guess I really don't. However, I've heard the theory that these UFOs/aliens are demons trying to win our confidence so that they can take us over, and we would worship them. But that's an interesting theory. However, it creates quite a dangerous situation, paradox, I should say, in that if that's the case, how do we know that these anomalous aerial phenomenon and people that got out of these chariots of fire and talked to the Ezekiel and Moses and the rest of them, how do we know that they weren't demonic trying to win our confidence?
Because the Bible tells us they weren't.
Yeah, but then they wrote this down and they said...
And the Bible is the Word, and the Word is God. That's what it says.
Well, then, this is the paradox that is created by that. Who's the good guy, who's the bad guy? Well, if it's in the Bible, it must be the good guy. And if it's UFOs in today's, in the 21st century, it must be demons.
Well, I'm not saying that I agree with that interpretation 100%. I do think that there's a possibility that part of that's the case. But I think that we're crazy if we think we're the only life that's out here in this vast, expansive universe.
Pretty much a given, really.
I mean, I'm not saying that all of these things are demonically charged, but I think that some of them might be. I mean, that's just...
Yes.
Think. How would you? I don't know. This is one of my theories. If you follow the rapture belief, the premillennialism view is that what would? How can you get rid of all these people that are Christians without the world saying, oh, gosh, you know what? They were right the whole time. We're wrong. We're all going to repent. We're all going to heaven. You know what I'm saying? How do you make people believe the lie that it talks about in the Bible? Well, one way to make people believe the lie, in my opinion, would be just to stage this massive UFO invasion and have these people zapped away. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a theory of mine. And I think that other people have shared in that view probably.
And there you go. That would be the paradox. If one believes that these UFOs and aliens are nothing but demons trying to deceive us, then if the rapture did occur, then what would people say? Well, this wasn't really Jesus or God in a rapture. This is another deception of the demons, of Satan himself. And so how would you know?
Well, with that in mind,
we have a caller.
We have another call. I think it's Ron again from Raleigh. Ron, you're popular tonight. I think everyone else is asleep out there, but thanks for calling, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to think about things like this and pray about things like this sometimes, I guess, before commenting on them. One of the things I was going to talk about when you talk about the battle for people's souls is that 19/20 of the Earth's population is not even in America. There's a lot of this, and all humans have souls, so a lot of this battle for people's souls is taking place at places other than America. Most people in America believe in Jesus, and on that basis, if well, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Me or David?
Anybody.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people in America don't believe in Jesus anymore. I think that's why a lot of times when I have guests on here that are Bible-believing Christians, that they're criticized more than, say, Mr. Twichell or anybody else that has any kind of
alternative view,
non-traditional based view. I think they're given more credence with a non-traditional based view because people inherently don't want to be held responsible for what they do. And with the Bible, you are held responsible. You're held up to a standard that personal responsibility. And people in America today want to pass that buck. They want to blame somebody else. They want to blame grandpa for molesting them when they were 3 that they never knew about until they had some kind of psychotherapist tell them about it because they had regressed that memory back in their head. They want to blame society for their problems. The reason they don't have a job is because they couldn't get an education, because they didn't have an employment, they didn't have the opportunity. They want to blame someone because they were poor, because they were mistreated, because they're whatever. They don't want to ever take personal responsibility for their actions, and that's why I think in a lot of ways that Christianity's gone out the window. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree that people want to put the blame, and very often they want to put the blame on the devil. Bad things that happen, it's got to be the work of the devil. Good things that happen, well, that's the work of Jesus has blessed me, and maybe things just happen,
Huh.
And what's the point of free will if angels or demons take care of whatever happens to us is either the good things are the work of angels and the bad things are the work of demons? What happened to free will?
Well, yeah,
what happened to personal responsibility, like you say?
I don't know. I take that whole free will argument and like good old Augustine does, is free will is the will to deviate from God's will.
Ron, you still with us?
Oh yeah, I'm still.
Okay. And as far as the other issue, yeah, there is we're only a certain percentage of the population, and yeah, there's a whole world out there that is not Christian, and
right,
and maybe and maybe there's a certain credence,
and unfortunately, they're all going to burn in hell if they're not. But that's neither here nor there.
The battle is going on out there
constantly.
Constantly. So, I don't know.
Ron, you got anything else for us, buddy?
I'm listening to this whole thing and trying to feel out the argument. You had a lot of anger in what you said, and I think it's probably directed in the right place. We really need to examine ourselves very carefully when we talk about Jesus and what his intent really was. Especially because there's a lot of events on Earth that are causing concern among people, especially people with families and small children. They have a lot of things to worry about. So, once again, I'd say if you're going to talk about Jesus, I always try to use his words and try to explain as much through the parables that he used. When, I don't know, when you talk about an out-of-body experience, some people have very vivid dreams. I myself have had fairly vivid dreams before, and sometimes they change your life. But the thing, I don't know. Maybe that's a good place to leave it.
Okay, Ron.
Good enough. Fair. Well, Ron, thanks for calling again.
Hey, no problem.
All right, thanks.
Take care. At least some people call into the show.
That's true.
That's right.
He brings up some good points, though.
That's right. He knew 877 was free. That's
it. Free. Scott's comment was not directed.
My anger, I direct it freely.
Yeah.
Speaking of this vivid dreams versus out-of-body experiences, I can understand where anyone would say, well, that you just had a vivid dream. But before they sent a probe to the sun, there was an experiment with a hypnotist, and of those who claimed they could leave their bodies. And under hypnosis, several people, the hypnotist suggested that they go to the surface of the sun. And when they did, they could perceive the heat, but it didn't burn them because they could perceive, but they weren't affected physically. And they said that there was no flames on the surface of the sun. As they stood on the surface of the sun and looked up, they saw flames over their heads. And this went against everything that our science had been teaching us, that the sun was just a big ball of fire. And as the hypnotist kind of apologized, he really sounded apologetic when he said, I know that this sounds weird, but this is what they all reported. And it was after we'd sent a probe to the sun that we found that there are no flames on the surface of the sun, but gases. And it's not until these gases go up to the upper atmosphere where they ignite. So it kind of, here's some circumstantial evidence that they were indeed out of their physical bodies and reporting through their physical bodies what they witnessed.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, it is that.
Well, I'm gonna give you the last word.
Hold on.
No.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what are you up to now, David? I mean, new books, new projects, new cons. I don't know. What are you doing?
Well, I do I do a local TV show called We Are Not Alone, and that's the cable access.
Okay.
And I also have a radio show by the same name, We Are Not Alone, on WHFR.FM. That's at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. the first Saturday of each month.
Okay.
And it's broadcast over the World Wide Web. And I have guests on it. We explore the UFO phenomenon. I'm also trying to work on a book, if I can ever sit down in the chair and do it.
I know how that can be sometimes.
As I was told, the hardest part of writing is putting your butt in the chair.
That's true.
So it's a novel, actually, and the novel is on how would the aliens view the whole situation, the UFO phenomenon from the alien point of view.
That's a very interesting angle to take.
And in it, I have characters that are benevolent, malevolent, and indifferent. And I'm trying to take what we've learned through ufology, or what we think we've learned, or what appears to be, and some of the technologies that they appear to use. Earthly technology is really catching up with these alien technologies, in that now whether they're back engineered or not, I don't know, but we're coming up with invisibility technologies, electromagnetic technologies, propulsion systems, which Tesla came up with at the turn of the 18th century, 20th century I should say, 1900s. But trying to use all those technologies that we think they're using, and when we do find that they're possible now, even bending space and time, and making a novel out of it. So I hope to do that.
That sounds really cool.
So if a book comes out called A New Heaven, A New Earth, that will be mine.
Okay. We'll keep our eyes out for it or whatever.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
It's been a pleasure.
Definitely. Take care.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Mr. David Twichell. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
It's like eerily quiet in here in the studio. I mean, I don't know what's going on. It's kind of creeping me out a little bit. Like, why is it so quiet? I mean, there's no other noises going on, and I don't know. It's just kind of bizarre here in the studio. Maybe I should, cut the edge a little bit with a little bit of music. But
Don't want to cut the edge. He's a great guitar player.
Yeah,
Don't cut him.
Yeah.
Don't cut the edge.
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay,
we got that, Scott.
Yeah, I know.
I was a little.
I don't know. Maybe the 877 people didn't.
Why don't you just? No, we have it on the website. I just remembered. When I said it's toll free. Yeah. It really is toll free.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I guess we're not having the Out of Darkness tour.
I guess not.
Yeah, you guys suck.
That's right. Berate the people that bought the tickets. Guys, you know?
No, well, they don't. They're cool. It's the other people that didn't buy the tickets.
You suck. You suck.
Yeah,
you're cool,
and that's fine.
You suck.
That's fine. I mean,
it happens. I mean,
it
you
does.
know.
I think maybe was it the location, guys? Is that it?
Yeah, I stress that you guys.
Is it the location?
Email us and tell us. You know what the deal was with it. You know, is it the guests? Was it the location? Was it the name? I thought it was a pretty catchy name myself, but you know, I mean, whatever. Huh?
Bad timing.
Bad timing,
yeah.
Timing? You know, I mean, I know that's kind of peak vacation season a lot of times for.
What is it? Why did you not want to do this? Email us, worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
That's right.
Let us know.
Give us an email. Well,
what do you? Try it out in Atlantic City or Vegas next time.
Yeah, Vegas. I wonder how that would work out.
Yeah,
that's right. The paranormal Vegas trip. Come out.
Yeah, the psychics would be, you know,
gamble, get drunk,
reading the cards. You know,
hire a prostitute, do all the sinful things you want, all in the same city of sin, and then get married. You know, right
after that.
So yeah, you can do it all. And we'll be there with you.
Oh my gosh!
It's
hey, we can probably look up Prophet Yahweh. He's out there.
Yeah, Prophet Yahweh. Yeah, he's out. He's out in Vegas.
That's true, man. Summoned a UFO.
I think
weather balloon, but UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, UFO.
Yeah, you know, it looked like a pillar of cloud to me. I don't.
Sorry. I mean, what do you think about it?
That was a cheap shot, wasn't it?
That was, man.
That was a cheap shot.
That was really, really uncalled for.
Mr. I'm not apologizing.
No, I know you're not.
Demons in the sky.
Demons in the sky.
That's right.
That sounds like an '80s hair band tune.
I was just thinking about,
you know, like
I was thinking about Ozzy Osbourne.
Maybe it is. Like,
you know, the Ozzy fire in the sky. Can't you see that all your castles
Demons
are burning?
In the sky. Okay, I'm not gonna go there.
Right.
We're talking about Ozzy, although
performance license on that.
I can't believe nobody called except Ron. I mean, we appreciate Ron calling.
That was excellent points that you brought up.
But you know, no one else called.
Well, I mean, that happens.
I know they're listening.
I know they're listening too.
Are you shy? Obviously,
may not know.
It's the same people that didn't buy tickets. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway, that's not going to stop us, though. I mean, you know, we'll cook something up some other time.
Yep,
you know.
we will. We'll figure something out.
But we definitely,
all of you.
Yeah, we definitely want your input. We definitely do. worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we could put up a poll.
We could do that too.
What city would you like to have something? You know, is it the guest? Is it the city? Is it, you know, what is it? Do you not like Bill? Do you not like John? Do you not like us? I mean, what is it? Do you not like Teresa? I mean, who don't you like? And if it's one of us, let us know. You know, I didn't come to this convention because of, you know, I don't like John Zaffis, or I didn't come to this convention because I don't like Bill Schnebelin, or I didn't come to the convention because I thought all your guests suck. You know?
Somebody you want.
Or or somebody you want to see.
Who do you really want to see?
I didn't come to the convention because Prophet Yahweh wasn't there with David Icke. You know, I mean, I don't know. That would be a weird convention.
Be a weird convention, Scott.
I would buy a ticket.
You know what? You know what I would actually
Yahweh
like.
And David Icke and Rich Handers.
You know. Oh,
yeah, we got
Chris Roller.
Yeah, Chris Roller. Yeah, that's great.
That would be crazy. Now look,
let's get those guys together.
I would actually like to put a tour together with Bishop Sean Manchester.
Oh, that's never going to happen. It's not.
Hang on, I'm not done. David Ferrant.
I know where you're going with it, and it's not going to happen.
I know it's
Their
not.
Armies are going to clash. It's going to turn into some kind of apocalyptic.
Yeah, a big wrestling ring. Yeah,
it's going to turn into a big apocalyptic thing. You know,
building's
probably going to burn down.
Even if not,
Highgate Vampire shows
Bishop
up
Manchester, Bishop Manchester, Bill Schnebelin, David Icke.
Well, if you're gonna have all the vampire people, you have to try to get Teresa Bain back.
Well, no, I was gonna say we could have her, but have the two vampire people, and then have like David Icke and like Matthew DeLuz or something. So you have that reptilian agenda vampire thing going on. That'd be super huge.
That's
dude.
real. That's crazy. Rep vampire.
Vampire.
Vamp rep.
Vamptile. Vamptile Expo 2007.
Oh.
Be there. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's done that like 3 times today.
That's just me knocking it.
It's like, dude, stop playing with it.
I'm not doing anything.
You're touching, dude. It don't fall out on its own.
I'm just clumsy. All right.
There ain't no ghost in here.
Bull and a might be a ghost, man. Might be the reason why it's so eerily quiet.
Yeah, eerily
it's a
quiet.
ghost, man.
Yeah.
You know,
infused in that.
that's true. and my
It's the child that haunts our.
This mic stand is totally.
The child that haunts our studios. Yeah. Oh my
there's
gosh,
a
there's
caller.
a caller.
Let's just put him in.
We're putting it on. Hello.
Hello?
Who's this?
Yeah, this is Rich Andrews.
Rich Andrews. Hey. How's it going, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Listen, do you have somebody here who has a TV show?
Huh?
The guy you're having tonight is having a TV show?
Yeah, he's got a.
What?
He's got a apparently some kind of local cable access television show.
Yeah.
Where's that?
I think is he from Michigan?
Oh shoot, I believe so.
I can find out for you.
Yeah, it's on the internet too, apparently.
Yeah, if you go, his website is UFOimplications.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you
Can't
can.
you tell him that he should get me on his show?
Yeah, I'll do that. I think you'd be a great guest for him. We're looking forward to having you back in May. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready. We're going to be ready for you.
By the way, actually, it's good that you talk about it. Did you ever, by any chance, look into any of the books I sent you?
We stay about 2 weeks ahead, so no, not yet. But we will next. May 7, May. You're coming on in May 21st. We'll look at them on the week of May 14th.
Well, what I would suggest is that you look through. Just superficially, I don't think you would want to go into depth, but just skim over it and choose a topic, because last time we were hopping around like locusts.
We do that a lot, though.
Yeah,
we're not very well controlled, but we'll try
really
to be a little
bad
more,
about that.
more on the ball about it.
On your website, you have me as the expert on UFOs and extraterrestrials.
Uh-huh.
But when I was on your show, we talked about anything but.
I agree.
That's true. We did. Really didn't even cover that. Not really.
But we'll talk. We can talk about whatever you want, Rich.
Well, whatever I want. I would suggest you look into my books, because there are many very interesting topics, and right now I'm preparing a book on a change of worlds and things like that, and about the necessity for humankind to have a savior, because it needs to be saved.
Excellent.
I agree with that. All right. Well, thanks for calling, Rich. We'll talk to you soon.
We're looking forward to it.
I'm going to send you an article extra so you know what I'm talking about.
All right.
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
We'll see you later.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
All righty.
Cool. Well.
Yeah.
There's the music. The eerie silence has been broken.
It has.
By Ready to Rock.
At least we got another call, right?
I don't know. I just like calling it Ready to Rock. Wasn't that like a song?
This has become like our tagline music here.
Yeah, I know. And then like a song that you're about to write one time, Scott, in a band, one of those bands that you're in. No, wait a minute.
Ready to Rock.
Yeah.
I don't. You know what? I think you're confusing that with the movie Rockstar.
No. It was called Ready to Rock, and it was.
I don't think that was me.
Yeah.
That might have been one of your bands.
No.
I don't think I would ever write anything as cheesy as Ready to Rock. I don't know.
I might have, maybe, or maybe not. Anyway,
he ain't gonna admit it.
No, of course I'm not gonna admit it.
Coming up
in my band Watermelon Pipeline.
Next week we've got.
It's my next project. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Mr. John Daniel, the Grand Design Exposed. Let me tell you what, guys. If you want to talk about crazy stuff going on, he talks about all in his book. How the Catholic Church is behind the Illuminati and how they all got together to. It's some crazy stuff, man. It's great. It's a great read. We're going to have a lot of fun next week with Mr. John Daniel on the show. It's some amazing stuff. Then the week after that, Bill Weiss, 23 Minutes in Hell.
In Hell.
And then Dr. Rich Anders. And then Brent Miller, Chuck Needs to Learn to RV. And then Jason Offutt, Haunted Missouri. We're going to talk more about that later. But I guess for now, this is Jay Scott, your only Esquire, JD, GJ, whatever the heck. Yeah.
Thanks again for all of our affiliates out there out west. Too numerous to mention in the 15 seconds we have. This is Trent Lackey. We're coming to you still again from Kernersville, North Carolina. Small town where we talk about big things.
Chuck.
We out!